Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to whichever time frame you are viewing this PowerPoint presentation. I want to thank you for being here for Powerful Public Speaking. These are skills and strategies for effective public speaking. And today we're going to focus on Module 2, the audience. My name is Carlita, and welcome to Powerful Public Speaking, where you will gain tools for leveling up your public speaking skills. In particular, we are going to learn about the power of audience today. So, for Module 2, audience is important because it gives you a chance to understand and know your audience, what they are expecting, some demographics about your audience. All of these things are important when you are public speaking. So here's our agenda. Who is your audience? What message should you deliver? When should you speak? Where you should speak, and delivery tactics. So let's start off with who is your audience. Your audience can be your staff, colleagues, senior leaders, or even external constituents. So, with staff, when you're leading staff members, these are the employees that are your direct reports. And there are some reasons why you would need to speak to your staff. For example, you may want to coach up behavior. Perhaps you are having a challenge with some of your staff members who come in late or take long lunches or just have behavior that's unacceptable in the workplace, and you want them to be improved in that area. So these are some moments where you would engage with them, speaking with them to give them the tools that they need to do better. Number two, discipline. This is big because many times we have to discipline the people that we lead. And when we're in that mode of disciplining them, we have to be mindful of the way we approach them. And so our public speaking skills come into play when we utilize the strategies of how do you talk to someone who is having some difficulty in the workplace. Let's go back to our example of some of the bad behavior. For example, if an employee or a staff member is taking advantage of time and taking long lunches, and they have been warned over and over again, then the next step is to go through the process of correction. And so that would mean having that one on one conversation with that individual and explaining to them these are the protocols that are put in place so that we know between the two of us what is expected of your behavior. So, discipline is a form of correction, but how you handle that discipline is the way you would use your public speaking skills. Another way, and this is a positive way of using your public speaking skills, is through motivation. How do you motivate your staff to do things that they would normally cringe upon or may not necessarily buy into right away? Having the right language, giving the right motivation, meeting their needs, understanding your staff, and understanding what they really want as they are employees of this organization helps you to develop the right language for speaking to your audience in that public way. Another way to acknowledge your staff is through recognition. If nothing else, provide your staff with some form of recognition when they do things well. It's one thing to discipline your staff, but it's another to recognize their good behavior and recognize and reward them for that. And then finally, number five, change. We use public speaking for explaining changes that may occur in our organization. And some people are okay with change, but others are probably not. And that means that you have to find the right language that will address their concerns, their fears, and sort of break down those restrictions of why they don't want the change. And that may mean a little bit of mindset adjustment and things of that nature. And I talk about mindset in other videos that I produce, but this one in particular is just to address how you talk to your your staff members using your public speaking voice. Now, colleagues are those individuals who are on the same footing as you. However, there may be occasions when you'll need to speak directly to them. And here are some examples of when that might happen. For number one, boardroom discussions. Colleagues tend to be in the same boardroom having the same discussions. And so there may be an occasion where you're taking the lead on a project and you need to be the one to be the front runner of that discussion. And so having a strong idea of what it is you're supposed to be delivering and saying is important when you're around your colleagues so that you maintain your respect, the respect of those colleague members, and you understand your role as not overstepping as a fellow colleague. There are other instances like your general meetings where you're with your colleagues and you're in a general setting with other members of the organization. And you are expected to give a speech, or you are expected to give some thoughts, or you are expected to provide some projections of what's coming down the pipeline when you are developing new programs in your organization, or in your institution, or in your ministry. Governance meetings are important too. I find this to be the case in many higher educational institutions where college governance is important, and having colleagues speak to those needs for the college governance is critical. So, knowing your organization's policies, knowing your union member policies, all of these ideas build the knowledge and the language you need to deliver a powerful speech. And then, of course, there are your daily meetings. All organizations run daily meetings just to stay on board with where they are so that all individuals are on the same place as far as knowing what's going on. And these daily meetings, some people call them huddles, daily huddles, just keep you in the loop, in the know. And so when you are in a huddle, one of the key things you want to remember is come in that huddle prepared, already knowing what you want to say when your turn comes around to give out your report, knowing the statistics and the data that's necessary to convey to your colleagues is important. So do your homework. Daily meetings are very instrumental in terms of letting the other departments know what's going on in your department. Those are important things for colleagues to do when they speak publicly. Now, for senior leadership, as a senior leader, your role is greater than the majority of the organization, institutions, or ministries. Whichever area you function in as a senior leader, you have a level of decision making that's critical to the success of that organization. So, speaking as a senior leader is very intentional to guide the organization and its processes. So, key individual senior leadership addresses some of the following things: all the members of the organization. That senior leader is responsible for the entire organization. So they will, on occasion, be expected to speak to the entire organization. They will also be expected to speak to the leadership beneath them, their executive leaders. And then, third, they will be expected to speak to their external partners. So, all three of these situations require that the leader, the senior leader, is abreast of what are the trends that are going on in relationship to the organization, and understanding how those trends impact the organization and how to communicate what those impacts are and what adjustments can be made or is on the horizon to be made. So I think that with leadership, senior leadership, that is a critical space for really connecting with other leaders outside of the organization. And that's where we talk about external partners, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. So, this is the next category, and that is who are we speaking to and what are we trying to speak about, right? General meetings are sincerely one of the most common types of speaking situations that you'll be in, or project based events will require some speaking. And again, senior leadership meetings, and then on special occasions, things that you may be invited to, or things that have to do with political climates that impact your organization. So for general meetings, when we speak in the general meetings, you want to keep these tactics in mind. Address the audience with clearly articulated words. There's nothing worse than not understanding the words that the speaker is saying. So be clear about your words. Be inclusive and know who is in the room. So that means you may have to enter the room surveying and making sure you understand, do you have your staff there? Do you have your executives there? Do you have your other colleagues in the room? Making sure that they are addressed in the way that they best understand what you are saying. So if you have your staff there, you won't necessarily use the same language you would to your other senior leaders, but you will use language that really makes sense to them and resonate with them. Have an agenda. This is not the time to speak off the cuff. You really want to plan out and have an idea of what bullet points you're going to discuss in this meeting so that it is a productive meeting, but it is a powerful meeting that people will leave walking away with something tangible in mind about what it is that they are expected to know and do. And then finally, use future forward language. In other words, keep on instilling the direction of the organization. In these general meetings, you want to make sure that everybody in the organization is on the same page with growth. And that growth is leading to the next step and then the next step. So use future forward language to show the movement of the company growing. When you talk about project-based events, we're speaking on behalf of these things. Keep in mind, create a clear and organized plan. So, winging it again is not the solution. You really need to take the time to do the homework and plan out exactly what that project entails. So, when you speak publicly, you speak with authority because you know what you're talking about. Clearly delineate any goals of the project. It's not enough to plan out what you want to do. You have to have some major goals in mind. Why are we doing what we're doing? And make sure those goals connect with the plan. You want to address the roles and responsibilities of who's taking care of those aspects of the project and do it with sensitivity. Remember, you are speaking with your colleagues. And when you speak with your colleagues, you want to make sure that you're respecting them as colleagues. So, when addressing roles and responsibilities, always use sensitivity to do that. And then, of course, more future forward language. The project should take us to the next level. It should show us how we're growing and where it's going to project us in the future. Okay. And now with senior leadership meetings, when you speak on behalf as a senior leadership in a team meeting, keep these tactics in mind. Sit in close proximity of the CEO. Why is that important? Because their power, you begin to ascribe their power when you sit close to them. It's almost like you inherit the authority of the CEO just because you're sitting next to the CEO. Then you want to speak with authority and no more. And what I mean by that is you don't have to say a whole lot in these senior leadership meetings, but when you do open your mouth, you say what needs to be said with authority and then you be quiet. When you are quiet, you are essentially saying, I have just given you the amount of information that you need from me, and I don't need to continue on with rambling. The third point is to come prepared to deliver impactful information. In other words, when you show up to a senior leadership meeting, it's not a gathering place to socialize. It is a place to give an informational report to the leader of that organization. And you want to be as prepared to deliver that as impactful as possible because your reputation is on the line when you do not come prepared. So the most important thing to do is take the time, set up what you want to say, maybe take your own notes, bring your laptop, whatever you need to do. But when it is your turn to deliver your speech in a powerful and impactful way. And number 4, collaborate with other senior leaders. Sometimes, not only in the meeting itself, but outside the senior leadership meeting, you should be working with other leaders on your caliber. Maybe they have organizational commitments that connect with what you're doing. And if you can collaborate with one another, you are then building a partnership internally. So when you go into the senior leadership meeting, you can then share how you're working to connect between the organizational lines. This is powerful. And so as you're speaking and delivering that information, you then are elevated to a different place, a more heightened place of leadership, because you have gone the extra mile and did something that others have not. And then there's the occasional speaking engagements. When you are an occasional speaker, keep these tactics in mind. Know the external organization's mission. So if you're going to be a part of some external partnership outside of your organization, understand their mission. Go to their website, do the research, learn about them, so that when you connect with them and you speak at their events because they've requested you to come and speak on their behalf, then you are going to come in there knowing how to deliver to that audience. Clearly delineate your why. Why are you a part of this partnership? Make that very clear during your presentation. Communicate regularly leading up to the public speaking event. In other words, you need to maintain an open dialogue with those who are your external partners so that you're ready and on board with their scheduling. And above all, be professional. There's nothing worse than not having your act together, not being on time, not giving the organization the information or the presentation slides that they need to get you ready. Nothing is worse than being unprepared. So be professional at all times. One voice, many words, ultimate impact. Find your voice and be a powerful public speaker. Thank you very much for taking part of this presentation. And there are some aids in your module 2 to help support your public speaking skills. Thank you.